The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Geopolitics Ghost. I'm your host, the ghost of Gordon McCormick, the ghost of bass Patrick Henry. This is Badlands Media. Today is June 23rd, 2026. And we are here to discuss geopolitics. So let's dig into the big news stories happening right now. Get the chat on screen. Sorry about that. Took a minute to get that working right. All right, so let's start with I was listening to I think he just wrapped up, but I was listening to Trump give some comments, some sort of a gaggle, I think he was about to go talk about the economy, but I thought he had some interesting comments here. I think it's worth pulling up. I'll try to jump through some of the irrelevant comments as he answers questions from the press. Let's listen to this for a minute.
On as a leader, and hopefully he can get the vote.
Sorry, I was getting to the right spot. Here we go. Okay.
Mr. President, on Iran, the Iranians are saying there's no scheduled visit for the IAEA inspectors. Is that part of your agreement?
They're wrong. They're wrong. They know they're wrong. They told us inside, and we have it down 100% inspections. And if they were right, I'd cancel the meetings right now.
When will those,
from your view, Mr. President, when will those inspectors actually be on the ground?
At the appropriate time. There's no rush, but they'll be on the ground at the appropriate time.
Israeli forces have opened fire in southern Lebanon today, killing 2 people. Are you confident that the ceasefire is still holding?
Well, we'll see what. Look, they've been fighting each other for many, many years, decades, and we'll see. But it's going to come along.
There's a note that our Brian Ensign reported on that says that she's dead. She's with nature. Is there any hope that FBI and investigators find her?
I hope they find her. I mean, Savannah's gone through a rough, that family's gone through hell, but I hope they find her.
Mr. President, you mentioned yesterday that the Interior Department has video and photos. We reached out to them and they haven't shared it with us. Are you going to compel them to
They've arrested, I think, 6 people on the reflecting pool. So the reflecting pool looks fantastic. I just got pictures of it. It's beautiful. But somebody went in with a knife and cut it. They cut it up good. And then they cut a 350-foot slip in the form of lots of little slips, a real horrible stuff. And they destroyed the grass. We put a brand new big load of grass out there. They destroyed it. So it's all being fixed. But it's a shame. So I understand 5 or 6 people are arrested. The Interior Department can refer to you on that. And I hear they have 6 people under investigation.
President, you're about to speak to truckers. Truckers are at high risk of losing their jobs to AI because of
Well, now they're not.
people.
You can't get a job. Right now, we have the highest job numbers we've ever had in the country, in the history of the country. And I'm just with a couple of the great senators and congressmen. We're talking, it's actually hard to fill the job. You know, nobody's ever seen a time like this. We have right now so many jobs that are going to be available. And the biggest problem we have is getting the people. So we're really doing spectacular in this area in Pennsylvania for steel. Eli Lilly just announced billions of dollars worth of plants. We have more plants being built right now in the United States than at any time in the history of our country.
Senator Carl, what will you say to allies of yours like Senator Cruz, who's been critical of the Iran?
Well, I think anybody that's been critical of it has to be educated, even if they're friends of mine, because we have Iran in a position that nobody's ever had. This should have been done for 47 years by other presidents. And we have Iran in a position where their military has been totally wiped out. Their leadership has been wiped out. Their radar has been wiped out. Everything's been wiped out. They have not a good negotiating position. But despite that, and money that will be taken out of Iran is going to go to our farmers to give corn, soybeans, wheat to Iran, because they have a hunger problem. They have a food problem. They have a medicine problem. They got a lot of problems. And they have an inflation. Their inflation now just at 300%. So they have a lot of problems.
Are you planning to do a federal takeover of DC soon? It looks likely that a socialist.
So we have a radical left communist elected, I guess, soon to be elected mayor of DC. DC is now a safe, you people know better than anybody. It's a safe, beautiful city. When I came here, it was an unsafe, unkempt, horrible city. It was horrible. The monuments and the waterfalls and the statues and everything were graffiti written, hadn't been fixed in 50 years, clean. Now it's beautiful. We did 52 statues, monuments, waterfalls, including the thing that, you know, where the vandals hit the reflecting pool, but we'll get that back very quickly. In fact, I will say, this morning I sent people over, they say it looks absolutely beautiful, but we're going to have to let a little water out and fix it, and then we'll put the water back in. But just so you understand, so our country is doing really well, and we're going to keep it that way. And any senator that didn't vote for all of the things we need, because we're making an amazing deal with Iran. We're making a deal that's going to keep our country and the world safe, because we're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And they know that, and they agree to that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I wanted to let that all play through, because I think that there's some interesting, I mean, there's some domestic and geopolitics kind of mixed in, but some of the domestic stuff, I mean, hopefully y'all are seeing now that the domestic and the geopolitics are connecting. And I apologize, the lighting in here is terrible. I use natural light in this room, and we're having a storm, or we just had a storm, so the lighting's terrible. If I turn on the overhead, it's too harsh. So hopefully, anyway, it looks like I'm in like a deep, dark cave, but hopefully the sun will come back out. But anyway, you'll see that there's an overlap of the domestic and the geopolitics. I don't know if that's true what President Trump said about the factories being built. We have the most factories being built right now than in the history of the country, but that would track with everything we saw over the past 18 months. All of the foreign investment, the deals. I mean, I've looked into a lot of these deals, and a lot of these deals are all based around manufacturing. And us providing goods for foreign countries. So us producing the United States producing the goods and then sending them to the foreign countries, and the foreign countries investing in the factories, investing in purchasing the goods, things like investing in our steel industry from Japan, and then investing in purchasing ships from pretty much every country has orders to purchase naval ships from us. Yeah, I mean, all of that would track. All of it would track. And then the commentary from Iran, my understanding, according to Trump on various platforms, is that part of the MOU is that we are going to sell them food and medical supplies. Here, I have a Fox News clip that will pull up right here. And I believe Trump said, I don't know if this is the Trump saying this or if this is just Fox News reporting on it, but this is related to the Iran MOU.
News alert: President Trump isn't letting up when it comes to pressure on the Islamic Republic, issuing a fresh warning to Tehran about compliance, but Iranian leadership doesn't sound all the way on board with the agreement.
Trey Yinks joins us live from Tel Aviv with the latest. Hey, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. After Vice President J.D. Vance announced that Iran has agreed to allow international atomic energy inspectors into their country, President Trump posted on Truth Social this morning saying, in part, if they did not agree to this, there would be no further negotiations. Well, the Iranians today are going on the record saying they did not agree to this point. Take a listen.
We neither had a meeting with the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, nor do we have any plan for the agency to inspect Iran's nuclear facilities damaged as a result of the U.S. military aggression and the Zionist regime. Fundamentally, there is no procedure in this regard.
Now, President Trump spoke from the Oval Office on Monday, saying that if Iran doesn't live up to their end of the agreement, he'll do what he has to do. The focus over the next 60 days will be resolving issues surrounding Iran's nuclear program and keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. With the initial agreement in place, millions of barrels of crude oil are leaving the Persian Gulf each day.
We took in more oil yesterday than has ever gone through the strait. You probably see that we have an oil gusher. The strait is totally open. You know that, and we're negotiating. We'll see how that all goes. But we have two things: we have an open strait, and we have a country that will never have a nuclear weapon. Will never, ever have a nuclear weapon.
On Monday, the U.S. Treasury authorized Iranian oil sales, temporarily waiving long-placed sanctions against the Iranian regime. The sanctions relief will be controlled by the United States, and unfrozen money Iran receives in the future would be used to purchase food and medical supplies for the Iranian people, according to President Trump. Now, there is this other broad issue of Lebanon.
Sorry, we're going to keep playing. I'm sorry. I thought it may have restarted.
The exchange of fire between Israel and Hezbollah. The Israelis today targeted a cell of Hezbollah gunmen in the southern part of Lebanon. They say they had intelligence that these militants were planning an attack against their forces. Guys?
Wow. So, Trey, that is pretty big. If they deny right away that there's inspections, and one of the first things J.D. Vance said is they've agreed to bring back the IAEA, and we made a call at 2 o'clock in the morning and nobody picked up. How could they be in the same meeting and and have a divergent view on something as fundamental as that?
Yeah, it's a great question because it raises other questions, not just about their nuclear program and their willingness to make these serious commitments, but also about the Strait of Hormuz. The language that is being exchanged here is...
Okay, so there's something brilliant happening here with President Trump. And again, let's take the disagreement publicly that we're being told between President Trump and the Iranians. Let's take all that and set it aside, because there's lots of different explanations for what could be happening there. Number one, we could just be like the media could be making a lot of this stuff up. They could be lying about what the Iranians are saying to an extent. I think that was very much there was a misquote quote there where they said that the Iranians said that no inspectors are coming back to Iran. That's not what the guy said in the clip they played. In the clip they played, the guy said they have no plans for the inspectors to come inspect the facilities that were blown up. They didn't say anything about the inspectors not coming to inspect places where they are going to enrich uranium. That was what I heard. So if you want to claim that there's a little bit of misrepresentation there, I think, from what Fox News is reporting there. But the fact that they're focusing so much on the nuclear aspect of this is really interesting, because there are much bigger issues, I think, that are going to be worked out. And that shiny object, the nuclear issue, that's something that I think Trump has used to distract a lot of the public narrative from the more pressing issues in terms of working out agreements with Iran, namely this money that they want, their the ballistic missile program, lifting the sanctions. I mean, that's a huge one. So let's look at the lifting of the sanctions. So we have from the weekend, there are a lot of things that happened over the weekend with this Friday meeting in Switzerland. We looked at some of it, some of the clips that went viral Friday morning with JD Vance, but he did a press conference. I believe this press conference was on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Is it either Sunday or Saturday? Maybe Monday morning. Doesn't really matter. Sometime between Saturday and Monday, he did this press conference, and there are a lot of clips from it that were great. This one specifically refers to the lifting of the unfreezing the billions of dollars in assets. And let's listen to what JD Vance says here.
Jared Kushner actually came up with a very interesting solution with the Qataris, where basically, again, if there is any frozen Iranian assets that are unfrozen, then we have approval over that process. The Qataris have approval over that process. And then the money would actually go to buy American soy, American corn, and American wheat for the benefit of the Iranian people. And as much as I see some of the press misreporting on this, and of course, buttressed by what the Iranians are saying, or not all Iranians, I want to be clear. There are a lot of Iranians who are telling the truth about what happened yesterday, but you see some social media reporting that gets this wrong. But fundamentally, what Jared and the Qataris and the entire team here in Bergenstock accomplished is, to me, a classic Trump deal, where if Iranian assets are ever unfrozen, they're going to go to make American farmers richer and to feed the Iranian people. That's a very, very good and very classic Trump deal. That's great for our people, great for the people of Iran, and fundamentally, again, will contribute to this regional security architecture that we've built and that we're going to work very hard to ensure that it endures.
Yep. And again, like the fact that Qatar is involved. Number one, Jared Kushner being behind this. Remember, Jared Kushner was credited originally. He was given credit. I think it was JD Vance who also said this as well. It was Jared Kushner and Wickoff's idea to create an investment fund, the 300, whatever it is. Is it 300 billion? 300 billion or 300 million, whichever one it is, the investment fund to rebuild Iran as like a carrot, to dangle in front of them to say, hey, what if we put together an international investment fund where investors from around the world who see opportunity to make money will invest money in Iran, and that money will be put into the Iranian economy. That was apparently Jared Kushner and Wickoff's idea. That pissed off all the right people. Now we have Jared Kushner being the one behind the unfreezing of the assets, which is something that Iran has long sought, but doing so in a way where not only is it are they going to get things they need, which are the farming materials, right? They need fertilizer, they need food from our farmers, and that's true because on this show we went over the historic drought that Iran has been suffering through over the past few years. So they are hurting very much so in terms of growing their own food. So I do, and potentially maybe this conflict they were involved in with the Gulf states and Israel might have been about blowing up some of those radar stations where they were doing weather manipulation and weather modification. That seems to potentially be true. But the fact that Jared Kushner is once again behind this idea of helping the Iranians get access to funding, get access to money, this really flies in the face of this theory, this long running accusation that number one, Jared Kushner is an Israeli asset, and number two, that Jared Kushner is President Trump's handler, like he's the Zionist handler. President Trump is an Israeli asset. Jared Kushner's his handler. That's the mud that they've been slinging against Trump. I mean, now Kushner's the one who's coming up with these creative ways to help the Iranians out by also helping us out. So focusing on those, getting the media to focus on the nuclear stuff, which has always been the criticism against Iran, and the reason that we had to go to war with them was because they're going to get a nuclear weapon. Iran has always insisted that they don't want a nuclear weapon. And now, while other more pressing matters are being addressed, the media is distracted by the shiny object of, well, are the inspectors going to get access or are they not going to get access? That's not a very important question, in my opinion, right now. The more important question is, how do we resolve the immediate issues of, number one, the Strait of Hormuz being fully open, and we've already been told by President Trump that we've been lied to, we've been misled as to the level to which it was open. We were told it was totally shut down for months. Turns out it actually hasn't been. Turns out that oil actually has been getting through. To what extent we can debate, but now he's saying that more oil is flowing through the strait than ever before. So that's number one. Number two is the normalization of relations between Iran and its regional neighbors, the Gulf states, namely, which a process that began after the October 7th attack. Now we're hearing that Qatar is going to have control over this escrow account. Here's the President Trump tweet about that, or the post, where he says, despite the protestations and false statements to the contrary, coupled with the drumbeat, let me zoom in a bit. Coupled with the drumbeat of the fake news, which is doing everything possible to make the U.S. victory as small and as insignificant as possible, Iran has fully and completely agreed to highest level nuclear inspections long into the future, infinity. This will ensure nuclear honesty. If they did not agree to this, there would be no further negotiations. Based on this and other major concessions being made by Iran, I have agreed to allow the Hormuz Strait to remain open with no further naval blockade. However, all ships are remaining in place, and should it be necessary to reinstitute the blockade, which seems at this point highly unlikely, the money and or sanctions that the U.S. Treasury is releasing goes into an escrow controlled by the USA and will be used for the purchase of food and medical supplies exclusively from the United States, including corn, wheat, and soybeans from our great American farmers. These are things that are desperately needed by Iran. This is a humanitarian crisis, and I feel it is necessary to help now before it is too late. Talks are going well. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Yeah, so the fact that he says, I don't think the blockade is going to be necessary anymore. He's seeding the narrative that we're not going to do a naval blockade anymore. Just get that out of your mind. The media is really hyper obsessed. And when I say the media, you should really think about Israel. Israel and the media are basically synonymous. And then you got to really think about what does that mean when Trump says the media is the enemy of the people? What does that actually mean if the media and if the MSM, the corporate media, and Israel are basically synonymous? But they're hyper focused on understanding we need to get eyes on this, on these facilities that y'all said you blew up. Like you said, you blew up the facilities. You said we were going to go after the nuclear dust. Now it's sounding like we're not going to go after the nuclear dust because it's not really that much to begin with. It's like $500,000 worth. It would take billions of dollars and weeks of excavation to retrieve it. We're just going to take Iran's word that they're not going to ever go after it. We're going to keep eyes on it with a satellite. But they're really, really obsessed with this. They really want to know what happened to this nuclear dust. Did the facilities even get blown up? Like, prove to us that these things we were told, Operation Midnight Hammer, actually happened. They're so hyper fixated on that. Now we go to, we're going to jump around a little bit because there's just different narratives I want to look at. Now we go to Sharif, Prime Minister Sharif, the Pakistani Prime Minister. And he is, sorry, I have so many tabs open, too many tabs open. So he's talking about the missiles. Let's see. And that's something that the Israelis are actually really worried about. But he has a pretty reasonable take on this. So let's listen to him.
Say with fullest command at my domain that this MOU does not mention about ballistic missiles. It was never on the table. It was never on the agenda. And Iran side never wanted to even discuss about it. So that is not an impression. That is a fact of matter. Say with fullest command at my...
See, and this is important because what we're being told that this was on the table and then it's no longer on the table, and that basically the U.S. lost this point. The U.S. lost the fact that that we wanted to go after the missiles and then we never did. So here's another clip from the same little press conference he
double
did.
standards, two standards.
So hold on, let me reload X. Okay, so here's Sharif again talking about the missiles.
Ballistic missiles, and of course, they cannot be double standards, two standards. That some countries can have ballistic missiles and Iran shouldn't have. This is simply, you cannot digest this kind of duplicity.
So that's exactly what President Trump said the other day. He's like, well, it's not fair that you're going to let Israel and all the Arab countries and Turkey, all the people around Iran, they get ballistic missiles, but Iran doesn't get ballistic missiles. That's ridiculous. You can't make that double standard. Because again, this isn't about, they're just moving the goalposts. It's like this isn't about a nuclear weapon, really. This is about, for the Israelis, this is about putting Iran in a situation where it can't defend itself, so that Israel can just do whatever it wants to Iran. And they've already made it clear that they want regime change no matter what. They want to control the Iranian government, which is ridiculous. And so President Trump has said that they're not going to go after the ballistic missiles. Sharif is telling you that the ballistic missiles were never on the table. That was never a question. We're going to, for some reason, Rubio has been out there saying that the ballistic missiles we're going to stop their ballistic missiles program. I don't know why Rubio has been saying that, but I mean, that invites its own line of questioning. So here's Pezeshkian talking about this as well. Let me see if, okay, so this is in Farsi, I believe. So let me just read the English subtitles. He says, Mashak discussion that we had in the Memorandum of Understanding does not exist and will never exist. He's talking about ballistic missiles. If it weren't for our missiles, which were there to defend ourselves, Israel and the U.S. would have plowed Iran like they did in Gaza, show no mercy to the young or the old. They talk about human rights. It's a big lie. And if we couldn't defend ourselves, they would definitely have no mercy on our country and destroy our power. As a result, we will never, ever negotiate with anyone against our own defense capabilities. So, again, this is very consistent with where I think Iran has publicly been for a long time. Now, were they actually pursuing a nuclear weapon? That debate can be had. The official narrative was that that Khomeini, the Ayatollah in 2003, issued a fatwa that said that nuclear weapons were immoral. They were against the Quran. Therefore, we don't want a nuclear weapon. Of course, they've been accused of pursuing one for 40 plus years, but and they've denied that. They've said, no, we are not pursuing a nuclear weapon. Here, they're being very open and very clear. The ballistic missiles, we are not giving up our ballistic missiles. We're never going to give up our ballistic missiles. That was never a point of discussion. And if we did give up our ballistic missiles, Israel would do what they did to Gaza, which is to show no mercy. They would blow everything up they could in Iran, and we would all die. Like, basically, that we already saw what happens when there's an asymmetric war between Israel and one of its enemies, Gaza. They're just going to be ruthless and basically killing everybody. So we're not going to give up our ballistic missiles. President Trump has said the same thing. And Sharif from Pakistan has said the same thing. It seems to me that there is a consistent language now happening here. So the media is presenting to us that there's inconsistency, that the Iranians are saying one thing and that Trump is saying another. On some things, I think that is the case. Some of that might be kayfabe. As JD Vance pointed out, he said, there are multiple voices speaking for Iran. What I've noticed is that there are these random characters that go on random media outlets, and they claim to be speaking for the government. A lot of them are credited as being IRGC officers, and they make these big statements that, like, oh yeah, we have Trump right where we want him. Like Trump, Trump has capitulated to us. We own President Trump. We don't know who these people are. These characters that they're citing and they're naming don't seem to be. It's not Pezeshkian. It's not Arakchi. It's not Galabov who are coming out and saying this stuff. It's these random military officers, right? And we're also being told that there are a lot of the hardliners in Iran are mad that the MOU got signed. That's what I think JD Vance said that. So the fact that some of these people are coming out and saying this stuff on alternative media, these random podcasts or these random Iranian news programs, it's not totally shocking. They could be hardliners inside the government who are entitled to their own opinion, who are saying things that aren't necessarily true. It could also just be random people who have who have no power and no authority and don't know anything about the deal, and they're just clouding the water and trying to basically gin up, hatred or contempt for the, for the MOU. We don't really know, but a lot of this is misdirection, mischaracterization, and misinformation. And I think it's worth pointing out that we do actually have a lot of consistent messaging coming from the three different parties, the three parties being Iran, Pakistan, and in the United States. There seems to be consistency in this messaging. Anything Israel is saying is absolutely irrelevant because they're not part of any of these negotiations. They're not in the room. They're basically being told after the fact what's happening, just like we're being told after the fact. So you cannot take anything coming from Israel or their proxies to heart. And they don't want any of us to happen. So of course they're going to lie. Let's play some more clips from. And well, let's just highlight that point there because we have an example of this happening. But before we get to the example, I wanted to play this clip as well. Here's JD Vance talking about the right of every country to defend itself, not just Israel, but every other country as well.
First of all, Israel and every other nation in the region has the right of self-defense, but we want to make sure that everybody has that right of self-defense in the background where we're talking about how to de-escalate these conflicts rather than spiraling out of control. Sometimes what will happen is that if the conflict spirals out of control, that's worse for everybody's self-defense and worse for everybody's security. First of all, Israel and
so JD Vance again is like saying, I mean, he's speaking the truth here. He's like, if we took away their right to self-defense, what would be their incentive to negotiate with us, to work with us? If we're saying, hey, you can't have missiles, you can't defend yourself, why would they even talk to us? Why even show up to Switzerland if we were saying that? I think it's very, very reasonable to be like, yeah, okay, you can have the missiles. Like if they start firing missiles at foreign countries, that is easy enough to deal with, right? That's easy enough to deal with. Like we can deal with that. By the way, Israel's been dealing with that for years because Israel fires missiles at them and then they fire missiles back. Yeah. So again, the goalposts are being shifted by Israel and its proxies, basically. And then we have, let's see. Here's an example of the Israeli Hasbara, like their little network here. This is Pamela Geller, who is the editor-in-chief of the Geller Report with 188,000 followers. I'm not familiar with the Geller Report, but she has an Israeli flag in her handle, so you can imagine what she's all about. And she says right here, watch Qatar snub Vance, so embarrassing. I played this on Badlands Daily this morning. This is making the rounds around the internet. And so this is the Prime Minister of Qatar walks up, says hello to Sharif, says hello to the other Pakistan. I think it's Munir, I think is his name, the other Pakistani delegate. And then there's a miscommunication between him and Vance. And people are like, oh, look, Qatar is like putting the middle finger up to Vance. That was an awkward moment. There's no denying that. But then the guy comes out and speaks like 2 minutes later. He's speaking. He's handed the microphone. And this is what he says.
For our region. Thank you very much. Is that event and how significant is that agreement, not only on the security of the region, but also for the security of the world and for the global economy. What we have done and what we have achieved, we wouldn't achieve it without the dedication and the hard work that was done by you, Mr. Vice President, and Mr. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, Prime Minister and Field Marshal, and also on the Iranian side, Dr. Ghalibaf and Dr. Arakji. I would like to thank all of you for your leadership and determination that put us in this room. And this is not really the main celebration. Our celebration when we reach the ultimate agreement. Hopefully this is just the beginning. And I wish everyone all the best. Qatar will stay dedicated to this partnership to support these mediations until the end, until we reach a solution. We will always be a partner in bringing more peace, prosperity, and hopefully better future for our region. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sheikh. Yeah, so this is again, like Qatar. I mean, first of all, gives all the credit to JD Vance. It's not. I mean, he could have sat there and been like, "Yeah, this is all President Trump and Pakistan. Thank you both," and totally ignored the fact that Vance is sitting next to him. He didn't. He credited JD Vance, all the work that JD Vance is doing. So again, that narrative that they're trying to push that he snubbed JD Vance in that moment, which definitely was an awkward exchange. You know, that stuff happens all the time where there's an awkward exchange. It's just false. Again, it's just misdirection, fake news, what have you. And then Al-Thani, which is who this guy is, he's the prime minister. And he's also the minister of foreign affairs, the prime minister and minister of foreign affairs. Here's his post that he put out on Saturday. Is it Saturday? On Sunday. This is where he put it out. And here's him live from Lucerne. Work continues with, and he tags JD Vance and Jared Kushner. So again, like you can see JD Vance is clearly the one typing on the computer. They're probably typing up, I imagine, the points that they're trying to make in this negotiation, and he's dictating, you know, they're all talking it out. So yeah, I mean, the narrative that there's daylight between the Qataris and JD Vance is silly. And I'll remind everyone, I don't even know if I played this on Friday, but I'll go ahead and just play it again. This is pointed this out back in October and even earlier last year, but I couldn't. This is the first clip I found of it. So of the theory that Qatar was the back channel between President Trump and Iran. This is a good sign. We obviously want a good relationship with Qatar. Right, especially right now, trying to navigate this whole situation with creating world peace. And remember, 2017, MBS went to war with Qatar with the backing of Trump. Okay, and that pushed Qatar out of the sphere of influence of the Arab League and into the arms of Iran, of which it had been enemies. It had no relationship with Iran before that. It was forced to reestablish that relationship with Iran. It strengthened ties with Russia and with China. And then I think Qatar comes back in January 2021, signs the peace deal with MBS at the 5 days before Trump leaves office. And then I think Qatar becomes the conduit between us, like the white hats in America, and Putin, Xi, Iran, all of it. So just my theory, my speculation, but I think this is So I think Qatar was forced into a relationship with Iran out of just pure geopolitical desperation, boxed out by the Arab League through the Saudis, and then that forced them to resurrect a relationship with Iran, which they hadn't had in decades. And then that becomes the conduit, I think, the back channel. I mean, Tamim, I think, becomes the back channel between President Trump and Iran. And that leads to, I think, the sanctions that Trump put on in 2018. He puts, again, because we're talking about the summer of 2017 here is when this all starts. Then a year later, Trump puts the sanctions on on the central bankers. He cites a bunch of bankers, sanctions them, and then those bankers all get arrested at the end of the summer. They all get arrested. This is 2018. They all get arrested. One of them is Arakchi's nephew, the current foreign minister. At the time, I believe he was a deputy foreign minister. But the fact that this guy his nephew was one of the vice presidents, I think, vice governors of the central bank, he gets arrested and I think he gets 8 years in prison, if I'm not mistaken. He got 8 years in prison for laundering money through the Iranian central banks, using banks in Iraq, using banks in the UAE. They were laundering money out of there. And then those guys get arrested by the Iranian government. I mean, that right there is coordination between President Trump and the Iranians. And then the guy who gets arrested, his uncle then gets elevated to the foreign minister position during the Biden administration. And then now he's the foreign minister who's working with Trump to make all this happen. I mean, again, there's just a lot of things that are happening that don't make any sense if you buy the mainstream narrative of it. And so now let's look at this report. So here's Reuters reporting on this, where they're saying, like, the headline is, Trump says Iran agreed to nuclear inspections into infinity. Tehran denies U.S. claims. But let's go down and look at the actual copy that they're writing in their article. So they outline in the first few paragraphs what President Trump and JD Vance have claimed. And then it says, Iran says it will decide alone on assets use. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai, I think I'm saying that right, Baghai, I mean, I don't know, said on Tuesday Iranian officials had not held a meeting with IAEA chief Rafael Grossi in Switzerland and had no plans for the UN nuclear watchdog to inspect Iran's damaged nuclear facilities. So again, here is the copy of the MSM and what they're reporting. And even they are specifying that the two things that the two claims they're making here is that they didn't meet with the IAEA in Switzerland, right? And then they have no plans currently for the UN watchdog, for the IAEA, to come inspect the blown up facilities from Operation Midnight Hammer. There's no claim there that they've said they can't come inspect our other facilities where we are going to continue enriching uranium. They never said that. I haven't seen that reported anywhere. And the other thing is, why would they have met with the IAEA if the Iranians left the meeting early? Remember, they all left early. And then the Qataris and the Pakistanis and the American delegation stay behind, and they're sitting there working on the negotiations alone. Why would they have? And at that point, when they work through those decision making, that's when we get the announcement yesterday, Monday, that this IAEA thing had been agreed to. So this agreement happens after the Iranians leave Switzerland. Why would they have met with Grossi if they hadn't yet agreed to publicly the IAEA coming in? Do you see how deceptive the media is being? This just doesn't make any sense. They're nitpicking little stupidities, and then they're making a mountain out of a molehill to make Trump look silly or look foolish. But it's really simple when you get in there to just pick apart what they're saying. So this is actually totally misrepresented. And because Iran doesn't have regular meetings with the MSM, they don't have MSM reporters, NBC reporters, CNN reporters in country. They're not speaking directly to the MSM. So, the MSM is kind of it's like third-party reporting, third-hand reporting. Okay, so let's see. We have I want to make sure we hit everything as it relates to this narrative. So I'll play this clip. I played it on Badlands Daily this morning, but here's just a minute and a half of Vance kind of summarizing the weekend.
Yesterday was a very, very good day. We made a lot of good progress. We did exactly what we wanted to do, which is accomplish 4 things for the American people. First, we wanted to build a mechanism for keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. It is open. We've seen, of course, gas prices and oil prices come down, millions and millions of barrels of crude and natural gas flowing through the Strait of Hormuz that weren't flowing before. But we also wanted to make sure that we actually set up the coordination mechanism so that we could demine the Straits of Hormuz, so that when there are the conflicts that inevitably come up, we can make sure we work through them rather than that leading to escalation. And that is exactly what we did yesterday. Number two, we also wanted to build a mechanism, a similar mechanism for deconfliction for the regional ceasefire. As the President of the United States has himself said, sometimes these ceasefires just mean you're shooting a little bit less, but we wanted to make sure that we had the proper coordination set up so that if there is shooting, if Hezbollah fires at Israel or if Israel responds, if there are other conflicts that arise in the region, we're actually talking to each other and figuring out how to stop the shooting, how to make the region safer, our allies and everybody else. We set that up as well. Number three, and this is probably what we're most excited about as Americans, the Iranians have agreed to invite IAEA inspectors back into their country. That is a major milestone for the American people and the first step in permanently denuclearizing or permanently ending a nuclear weapons program in Iran.
Okay, and then we get Trump asked about this later that day in his Oval Office meeting. He's asked about this by the press, so we'll play that too.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. What's the latest you heard from the Vice President? Are you happy with his negotiations?
Yeah.
And can you share a little bit about what Secretary Rubio will be doing in the Middle East this week?
I think that they're doing a fantastic job. Our secretary is fantastic. I think he's maybe going to go down as the best ever. And I thought J.D. Vance this morning was fantastic. I watched his news conference, and from Switzerland, he's a very smart guy. He did a great job. You know, when I look at the Democrats, I call them the Democrats.
Okay, then he just goes on to rail the Democrats. But again, it's like Trump giving his approval because everything J.D. Vance is doing is just an extension of Trump. And I think we have to keep that in mind. So now we have, before I get to Rubio, no, we'll go ahead and play Rubio. So Rubio, here's some Fox News. This is from about exactly an hour ago, posted by Fox News. So this is Marco Rubio arriving in Abu Dhabi for talks with the Gulf allies. But it's important to distinguish who these Gulf allies are. Now, it's very possible that Marco Rubio is there on, as an earnest representative of President Trump. I also have said many times that I don't trust everyone in this administration, and everyone has to prove themselves. We can't just assume that every person who's working for President Trump is actually an earnest actor, like acting in the interest of the American people. I think Rubio has done plenty of things to prove that he is actually carrying out President Trump's agenda. He's also been a little subversive at times, and he's said things that contradict what President Trump has said. Maybe that's at the order of President Trump, because President Trump is using his proxies, his people, to confuse the situation on purpose, in my opinion. Here's what Fox News says. They say Secretary Rubio arrives in Abu Dhabi as the Trump administration ramps up talks with key Gulf allies following the preliminary U.S. agreement with Iran. Over the next 3 days, the Secretary of State will meet with leaders in the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain with a major focus on regional security and keeping the Strait of Hormuz open to global shipping. The visit comes after months of escalating tensions across the region, with Gulf partners facing repeated Iranian attacks with growing concerns about what comes next. It's interesting, though, that at the meeting with the Gulf allies, you don't have Oman there and you don't have Saudi Arabia there. Because Saudi Arabia, and you don't have Qatar. So Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Oman, who have, in my opinion, those three have proven themselves to be Trump's people in the Gulf. Like when you talk about the Gulf Arab states, it's those three. It's Qatar, it's Saudi Arabia, and it's Oman. And Oman, by the way, Oman is it's called the Gulf of Oman. The Strait of Hormuz opens up to the Gulf of Oman. So Oman actually controls the waterways that go into the Strait of Hormuz. I've seen reports out there that Oman has announced that they're going to charge a fee. I haven't seen that confirmed anywhere. I just see people talking about that online. Some quote unquote news agencies. These are like Iranian news, but I don't know. Are they actually Iranian news? It's hard to say. These three countries, though, that Marco Rubio is meeting with, UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain, where do their interests lie? UAE has been a little subversive. Like they have, remember they have some weird ties. A lot of like the money that's being laundered out of Iran back under the Biden administration and the Obama administration was going through the UAE. So I'm a little skeptical. When I hear those three countries, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed that those three countries are actually earnestly negotiating on behalf of the entire Arab Peninsula. I want to hear about Qatar, and I want to hear about Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Oman when I hear about the Gulf states. Those are Trump's guys. I don't know about these other three. MBZ has been great in a lot of places, but he's also cuddled up to Israel a bunch. And again, there's just too much mis and disinformation out there when it comes to the UAEs to really have a firm confidence that Marco Rubio in this meeting is Marco Rubio taking this meeting on behalf of President Trump, or is Marco Rubio taking this meeting on behalf of the deep state? And Trump's just letting him do it because, keep Marco busy over there doing this. He's running Marco Rubio ragged, by the way. Marco Rubio has been worked like a dog ever since he's come into office. And Trump's talked about how great of a job he's doing. But Trump has him flying all over the world, working 18-hour days. And we'll find out if he's actually doing a good job. But right now, the narrative that's out there, I've seen a lot of these Israeli Mossad media propaganda saying this. They want the new ticket that they want. It used to be JD Vance. They're like, oh, JD Vance, he's the successor. Now that JD Vance is out as far as they're concerned because of his comments from last Thursday, now they want Hegseth and Rubio. That's like the new ticket for 2028 is they want a Rubio Hegseth. And all the reports, again, may not be true, may be true, are that Rubio and Hegseth were against the deal, the MOI or the MOU, and that Vance and Kushner and Witkoff were for it. So we'll see. I mean, again, I don't know. But if you look at the background of all these people, what is Marco Rubio's background? Well, he's like from the establishment Republicans. I don't trust that. What is Hegseth's background? Well, he's from Fox News. I definitely don't trust that. So we'll find out what they are. But, for me, there's a lot of questions here. So we'll find out. We'll see. Here is the new Mossad chief. This is Goffman is his name. So here's what he says Mossad's going to be working on coming up because he just took office. The Mossad chief, by the way, works on 5-year intervals. So David Barnea, who was he was known as the Soleimani guy because his whole job apparently purportedly his job was to hunt Soleimani. That was his entire existence basically. At a certain point, once he was elevated enough and promoted enough at Mossad, his job he was the Soleimani file guy. The Soleimani file was at his discretion, and so it was David Barnea who called President Trump the night before the operation being January 3rd, 2020, and said, yeah, we're out. We don't want to kill Soleimani anymore. And that was when President Trump said, that's all right. We'll kill him for you. Don't worry. And then Barnea was elevated to the director of Mossad right after that in 2021. I think that David Barnea was the handler for Soleimani. And then once he became a director of Mossad, that's what put him in a position to try to pick up the pieces of Soleimani's network that he was establishing in the Middle East and try to piece it all back together. But his term's over. So now we got a new guy, Goffman. And Goffman, I haven't done a deep dive on him, but the criticisms against him, which were coming from people that Netanyahu has been at odds with inside the Israeli political landscape, their criticism against him is that he basically has violated a lot of Mossad protocol. He's used children as informants. He's used children in intelligence operations. And when I say children, I mean like 15 and 16-year-olds. But apparently there's a rule against doing that, which makes sense. But he is relied on that in his operations, and it's considered very controversial. So there are concerns from those people as to how the way he's going to run Mossad and whether he's going to be ethical in the way he runs Mossad. So here's what he says. He says, Chief of Staff, I first wanted to tell you that we are ready and willing to fight. Always ready and willing to fight. But there's one problem. You're not activating us. Over time, this creates a very serious issue here, primarily because operational capabilities can erode. And yet, in the current reality, we have much to offer in the Gaza Strip, Lebanon, Syria, wherever needed. So he's basically saying, like, hey, you're not using us enough. We should get out there and be working more. The Mossad should be going out there and doing more than it's doing. So now, well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We will come back. We'll come back and we will reset here. This is Geopolitics Ghost. We'll be back here in a minute.
I am a kung fu master. Why do you not respect me? You want to fight me? I will fight you to your death. Do you want to tame the mane that is your ugly beard? Do you want your beard to feel silky smooth? You want to make it illustrious, like my kung fu beard? Then you need self-disclosure, beard oil. Softdisclosure.com. Promo code BADLANDS.
A soft disclosure on your beard. Many lady come to you.
It's officially a new era for gold and silver. Gold has broken $5,000 an ounce, and silver has surged past $100 in 2025 alone. Gold jumped 64%, while silver skyrocketed 150%. And with political and economic uncertainty ahead, 2026 could bring even bigger moves. After such a historic run, a pullback is normal. Metals move fast, so some consolidation is expected, but top analysts are calling for even higher prices. We've seen the first bank failure of 2026, with regulators shutting down Metropolitan Capital Bank and Trust in Chicago. Could more follow? It's no surprise Americans are pulling money from banks and returning to the proven protection of gold and silver. Big news, Goldco is celebrating America's 250th anniversary with the limited time bonus. Get up to 10% free gold or silver, plus free storage and a free home safe with a qualifying cash purchase. This offer won't last, so act now. Are we seeing the early signs of another 2008 style crash? Don't wait for the next shoe to drop. Protect your wealth with precious metals, because in uncertain times, gold and silver shine brightest. Visit badlandsgold.com today for your free 2026 gold and silver kit and bonus buy. That's badlandsgold.com. Maha yourself with supplements that don't suck from Conscious Strength, founded by Badlands' very own Jordan Sather in 2019. Conscious Strength products are made in America and won't break your bank, unlike other online brands. Their lineup includes collagen for strengthening joints and hair, electrolytes to get rid of those cramps, greens powder that tastes good and mixes easy, Shilajit gummies, methylene blue, zeolite, and more. Flip the finger to pharma, be your own doctor, and get supplements that you can trust from Conscious Strength. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/strength to shop now and earn and use promo code BADLANDS for 10% off. One more time, that's badlandsmedia.tv/strength. The link will be in the description below this video. And check out episode 5 of America First Stories on the Badlands Rumble channel for the background of this company. All right, welcome back. This is the second half of the show. Geopolitics Ghost. Today is June 23rd, 2026. And I'm your host, Gordon McCormick, the ghost of Base Patrick Henry. All right, so let's get back into it. Before we do, I just want to remind everyone that this week is we have GART starting in 2 days, actually. The Great American Restoration Tour, GART number 12. And that is in Deadwood. Really excited to be back in Deadwood. If you're going to be in the area in South Dakota, please stop by. I'm pretty sure we have, almost certain that we have single day passes available. And it's not too late to pick up your virtual ticket as well. I think those are on sale now. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that those are on sale. But go to badlandsmedia.tv/events to pick up your virtual ticket. I know that we're going to have a lot of extra content aside just from the normal panels. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that. And they have a Telegram channel that is exclusive for GART attendees and GART virtual streamers. So go to badlandsmedia.tv/events and join in on the fun. Looking forward to seeing everyone there. This is going to be a really, really good one. So third time in Deadwood. And it's always a lot of fun when we go take over that town. So excited to see everybody there again. Badlandsmedia.tv/events. All right, so let's continue. We have let's talk about Israel. So Israel, are they spinning out? They are definitely spinning out. Before we look at Ben Gvir, let's look at what we saw at the International Policy Summit from the Jerusalem News Syndicate. That is what it's called, the Jerusalem News Syndicate. It used to be called, I think, the Jewish News Syndicate, and then they changed their name to the Jerusalem News Syndicate. Hold on one second. I'm just making sure I have all of them. Let's start with Mark Levin. Why not? Or even better, let's start with Mike Huckabee. So I have a lot of these videos saved for this. So let's go to Mike Huckabee first. Oh, that didn't work. There we go. All right.
So today, before I got here, I did something that I thought was very important. I checked President Trump's social media to make sure this was not my last speech in Israel. As you know, he typically fires people in the middle of the night by way of social media. So I wanted to make sure that there was a reason for me to come. I'm happy to report that so far, so good.
Yeah, so throwing some shade there at Trump. Now, why would Mike Huckabee get fired? Well, because he's made it very clear that he stands with Israel, not with America. I think he's very skeptical of this deal, like many of the other neocons and Zionists are. And so, yeah, I mean, it would make sense for President Trump to fire him, but I don't think President Trump will, because I think he's a great character to have in place right now, because he's the first non-Jewish ambassador to Israel from the United States. He's a Christian, but is he acting like a Christian? Is he acting like an American? I think those opinions are going to vary. Now, if we had a Jewish ambassador who was a dual citizen with Israel, that person sympathizing with Israel and being on Israel's side would make a lot of sense, right? Even in the minds of the average American. But for an American-born Christian, why would he pick Israel over the United States? Okay, so here is Mark Levin.
If this regime in Iran could, it would murder every single one of you sitting in this room. Every single one. Every woman in this room, they would rape you. Every single one. If you had grandchildren here, they would murder them. They would slaughter them. Every single one of you here. Because you're Jews or you're Christians or you're just not one of them.
Jeez.
This is very, very important to understand.
Jeez, Mark. Chill out, bro. Take a Xanax or something. Yeah, I mean, these people are pretty unhinged. And I think this would have happened after our show on Friday. So let's just go ahead and play it. This has made the rounds like all weekend. But here is Levin on his own program Friday night, calling out Trump. Oh, wait, hold on. Share the right tab. There we go.
I want to say to people in and out of the administration, stop trashing, smearing, bullying the little state of Israel. Stop cozying up to and telling us that the enemy regime in Iran is now more rational, more moderate, and a regime that we can deal with. When just a few months ago, they slaughtered 50,000 people, they're still hanging young people today. And if they had a nuclear missile today, they'd fire it into our country as sure as I'm alive. I don't know what's going on, but if people think they can bully a little country, really a people that have existed 4,000 years, through the Babylonians and the Persians, through the Romans and the Third Reich, into surrendering their defense and their decision on how to secure their country, they got another thing coming. I want to say to people in and out of the administration.
Yeah. So, pretty unhinged. I mean, pretty angry. I mean, and this is so he does this show. I mean, I don't know when he recorded it. He probably recorded it during the day on Friday, I imagine. Then he hops on a plane and he flies over to Jerusalem to give that other speech, where he openly says, "I'm not an Israeli asset." And then right after him, and then he introduces Netanyahu. Netanyahu comes up on stage and they hug it out. Yeah, he's like, everyone accused me of being an Israeli asset. I'm not. Okay. So here's now Netanyahu when he gets up and speaks.
I ask you, the Jews of America and the Jews of the diaspora, to do one thing. Stand up. Don't cower. Don't be afraid. Fight back. Because people will only respect us if we respect ourselves. And when they level lies at us, throw back the truth and do it standing up. Stand up for the truth. Stand up for Israel. Stand up for the Jewish people. Stand up for the Jewish future. Thank you all. Thank you.
That's how he ends his speech. Basically telling, I mean, the signal there is just the signal you've seen across the whole internet, which is oppose this deal, oppose what they're trying to do. He's not coming out and clearly saying that he opposes Trump, but he's made it very, very clear that Israel is not going to comply with the elements of the deal that concern them, namely the ceasefire with Hezbollah. And so here's another clip from his speech.
Israel's security doctrine. We initiate, we attack, we surprise, and we attack those enemies that seek our destruction, that seek to kill us. We attack them before they have a chance to do so. If you know Hebrew, akam leorgecha, ashkem leorgo. Kill them first.
Kill them first. And so this is we've heard him cite this passage before. This is from the Talmud, okay, which was written 300 or 400 years after Jesus was crucified, right? It's the rabbinic Judaism document, what they call the oral Torah in Israel. Now he calls it the Bible. He's referred to it as the Bible before. That really triggered Ash when he did that months ago. But rise up and kill your enemy before your enemy can kill you. Does that sound like something Jesus would say? No, he's not claiming Jesus said that, by the way. He's just saying that that's from the Bible. It's his Bible, not the Christian Bible. But when you stop and you apply that to the Trump administration, apply that to the American government under populist MAGA leadership, real MAGA leadership, right? That where we exercise our own sovereignty and we don't just do whatever Israel tells us to do. Think about what that means. Think about what he's actually saying there. And I mean, I think saying that Israel is now kind of a cornered animal is not a misstatement of facts. So let's now shift to Naftali Bennett, because now we have Naftali Bennett was also at this event. This was, all the who's who of like Jewish media, Jewish politics, Israeli politics, obviously, just all the Zionists were at this event. So here is Naftali Bennett speaking about this.
In the world, right? Fauda and all that. Yet when it comes to our own public diplomacy, we're the worst in the world. If Israel were a PR firm, I definitely would not hire us. And so replace that firm and start working, but start by not being stupid. All right? When Ben Gvir tweets something, it's meaningless. It benefits no one in the world, right? Fauda and all that.
Yeah, so he's not wrong. Like I actually agree with what he's saying right here. I actually agree with exactly what he's saying. And so here's another clip from him. So I have a few clips from him because he made a lot of different statements.
I want to be very clear. Israel has had no greater friend than President Donald Trump ever. President Trump and myself, we're going to work great together. Both of us are businessmen who look for solutions to get stuff done pragmatically. But Israel is not a client state or a vassal state. Israel is a friend, an ally of the United States of America for a long, long time. And Israel must, right now in Lebanon, exercise our right and duty to defend ourselves. And that's what we have to do right now, this very minute, and never tell soldiers, you see terrorists with your eyes and they're preparing something and you can't shoot them, which is what's going on literally right now.
Yeah. So again, he's saying, hey, love y'all, love you, America, but you're not going to tell us what to do. And when I get into office after this election in October, we're not going to be listening to you when you tell us not to do this stuff. We're going to restart the war with Hezbollah. Here is another comment regarding that in the same segment at the JNS summit.
The fact that we're surrounded by a bunch of people that want to murder us. They want to murder us. And if we don't defend ourselves, these barbarians will come in and hack us with axes and kill all Israelis if it's possible from their perspective. This is an unfortunate fact, finds us a basic fact that we're...
Yeah, so again, just more of that rhetoric. And then we have this comment about the security cabinet.
That's not a robust strategy. So we have a huge task of reversing, and it'll take time, reversing the public image of Israel. It starts by replacing infantile ministers in the state of Israel, in the government, that day in, day out are saying really stupid things that benefit no one and create huge harm and exhaust and waste precious political capital. So by the time we actually need that capital, for example, for our soldiers to be able to defend themselves, we've spent it on those foolish tweets. That's not a robust.
Yeah, so he's not wrong. Again, like, I don't think he's wrong when he does this stuff. But yeah, like, I don't think Ben Gvir or Smotrich or any of them are doing Israel any favors. I also think when you look at a game theory standpoint, this is exactly why President Trump forced Netanyahu into a relationship with these sociopaths. So here is one more really important post, I think, or video segment from his JNS. This caused headlines.
What happens every time there's a protest? They turn off the internet, and then there's no communications. So what I had started was a process of acquiring and smuggling into Iran tens of thousands of Starlink receptors that would allow continuity of the internet and social networks when they turn it off, and would allow the protests to coordinate and ultimately topple. Unfortunately, the current incompetent Israeli government stopped doing that, like they stopped pretty much every good program that we started. And when the protest happened, that infrastructure was not there.
No, that's actually not. So again, like, if you didn't understand what he just said, he said under my leadership, he was only prime minister for 6 months at the end of 2022. We were smuggling tens of thousands of Starlink receptors into Iran so that when they shut down the internet, our protesters our operatives could continue to coordinate. But do you remember what happened with the Starlink, where Russia helped the Iranian government hack the Starlink and locate where these receptors were? And that's what allowed the Iranian security forces to hunt these people down, who are all Israeli operatives by Naftali Bennett's own admission right there. These are Israeli operatives, whether they are Jewish or non-Jewish or Iranian or whoever, it doesn't matter. They're Israeli operatives who are doing something on behalf of Israel, right? And the Iranian government, I mean, if they were doing that in our government, I mean, in our society, I would want our law enforcement to hunt them down too, because their purpose is to overthrow the government from outside. So Russia helps the Iranian government hack Starlink. I mean, I think Elon helped them do this and locate these people. And that's what basically chopped off the head of the snake, so to speak, of this color revolution that failed. But Naftali Bennett makes it very clear during his speech that we're going back into Iran. We're going back into Lebanon. We're not pulling back from anywhere. Like, no, this is not. When I win the presidency, or I'm sorry, the premiership, the prime minister's office come October, we are going to do regime change. He said that multiple times. We are going to do regime change in Iran. So now let's go to Itamar Ben Gvir, because he mentioned Ben Gvir in that speech. Here is Ben Gvir. Again, this is going to be in Hebrew. So let's now this post is from the Voice of Rabbis, which these guys are rabbis who are anti-Zionist. They're anti the state of Israel, its government, and I think they openly say that the state of Israel shouldn't exist because of in the original Torah it says that the kingdom of the Jewish kingdom shouldn't be reestablished until after the Messiah arrives. That the Messiah would basically establish the Jewish kingdom. That was changed with revisionist Zionism. Changed that and inverted it. That said, create the Jewish kingdom first, and then that will beckon the coming of the Messiah. So here is Ben Gvir. He says, I'm going to turn off the sound and I'll read it to you. He says, they say God gives strength to his people. God bless, rest in peace. There can be peace, but only if we are strong, determined, the owners of the house, and you are strong, determined. And you know what? I am happy that in the world people look at me and say, Ben Gvir, these are his opinions. Yes, yes, I represent the opinion of the owner of the house. I represent the opinion of Jewish pride. I represent the opinion of bringing sandwiches to true supporters who come here. That's my perception. You know what? The world knows how to appreciate that. So what he's saying is he said in another comment that when those flotillas, the Gaza flotillas from Italy, that what's her name, the little girl from Sweden, that she was involved in, he was told, he was like, all these people came to me and they said, hey, this is a PR moment. Why don't you send a boat out there and bring them sandwiches? And he said, no, these people are terrorists. We're not going to bring them sandwiches. We're going to go arrest them and treat them the way they deserve to be treated, which is as terrorists. And that was where the video of him like basically spitting on these people, like stepping over them while they're handcuffed and just being kind of a jerk. These are peaceful people. They might be funded by something nefarious. I don't know, but they weren't showing up with weapons. They were showing up with aid. And then that was what provoked Italy and France from issuing their own arrest warrants against this guy because he had mistreated these French and Italian citizens. This is the kind of stuff that Naftali Bennett's talking about. He's like, this is the stuff that makes us look bad, and that we have to expend political capital on dealing with this kind of commentary from Ben Gvir and Smotrich. And he's 100% right. That is absolutely something they have to deal with. But getting back to Naftali Bennett is saying that no matter what, if Netanyahu stays in office, now he's not saying this, but this is the message you need to take from what he's saying in general in his public commentary. Whether Netanyahu stays in office or his opposition, which is represented by Naftali Bennett, we are going to have a war between Israel and Iran. We are going to have a war between Israel and Hezbollah. That's happening regardless, because he's saying the minute I get back in office, the war starts again. Naftali Bennett saying that. So again, the problem isn't Netanyahu. Netanyahu represents an opinion that is shared across the political spectrum in Israel. The problem is the Israeli political elite. Just like the problem in America is the American political elite. It's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans too. The problem is that they don't represent us. They don't represent the American people. To what extent the Israeli political elite represent the people of Israel, that is for them to determine. I don't live in Israel. I'm not an Israeli. But I can say that their ambitions are not our ambitions, and we don't share overlapping interests when it comes to the Middle East and what they want to do. So that's all we need to concern ourselves with. The people of Israel liberating themselves from that dynamic, that's their problem. Just like in Iran, just like any other country, if they have bad leadership, it is not our job to come in there and overthrow your government and give you a different government. You need to do that on your own. Just like we need to do that on our own. We need to peacefully replace our bad government at every level with good government that actually represents the people. And so I want to play two more videos. One of them is Amichai Chikli. This guy is the Israeli Diaspora Affairs Minister. So his job is basically to speak to Jews all over the world, people who have dual citizenship, and engage with the diaspora around the world. And here's what he says.
No, we can't. And I think that Turkey of Erdogan and Syria of Ashara are now far more concerning than Iran. The era of the Shiite empire of Iran, Assad, Syria, and Hezbollah is over. The new axis is the Muslim Brotherhood axis of Erdogan's Turkey, Syria, and Qatar. And it's better to get awake and to open your eyes now. No, we can't. And I think that...
Okay, so this guy, again, he's representing... Now, he's in Netanyahu's government, but I'd have to go look up what his affiliation is. Is Amichai... Let's look. Is Amichai Chikli in the Likud party? I don't think he is. He might be. Party affiliation. Because basically, you put people in your security cabinet, or I'm sorry, your cabinet. The security cabinet is just the core people. It's the finance minister, it's the national security minister, it's the defense minister, and the minister of foreign affairs. That and the prime minister. That's basically the security cabinet. And then you have other ministers, this guy included, and basically in these multi-party parliament systems, like in Europe and Israel, the idea is you go out and you branch out to other parts of the political spectrum. You say, hey, I'll give you this position. Your party, if your party backs me and joins my coalition. So you end up with people who aren't necessarily in your party. Now, this guy, I'm looking at it right now. He is, let's see, his current affiliation is the Likud. Before that, he was in the New Right Party from 2019. I think that was the party that Benny Gantz started, if I'm not mistaken. And then he was in the Yamina Party from 2021 to 2022. So he is in the Likud Party right now as of 2022. But he is representing the view, I think, of probably the diaspora. They want, he says, the Shia axis, which has always been Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. That's what Netanyahu called it, the curse. Remember that map he held up? It highlighted those 4 countries, and he called it the curse. That's where Shia Islam exists. He says that's no longer it. It's no longer the axis is no longer Shia. That's no longer the enemy. The enemy now is the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a Sunni axis, and the axis now runs through Turkey, Syria, and Qatar. Think about what those 3 countries are. That would be Erdogan, Jelani, and Tamim. Those 3 leaders. Those are all Trump's guys. You add MBS into that mix, and those are the 4 leaders in the Middle East that are Trump's guys in the Arab Turkish axis. Geographically, like once you bring in Persia, you bring in Pakistan. You talk about Pakistan, like Pakistan is obviously Trump's ally, but over there in Arabia, which I would argue extends all the way up to Turkey, that would be Erdogan, Jelani, MBS, and Tamim, Qatar. And that's who this guy's calling out. So he's saying that's the enemy. That's who we have to go to war with next. And so the last video that I want to play is this other, this guy is he's the former spokesperson for the IDF, like publicly, their spokesperson. And he says that we have to, like, Israel needs to confront a very, very real, like a reality check.
I'm wary of Israeli politicians campaigning, saying we are going to be independent of the US. I humbly think that is a reckless thing to say, because I don't think that Israel can defend itself using Israel-made platforms. We don't make F-35s. We don't make any of the Fs. And for over many years, we have been limited from having a totally independent military industry. And if we're honest, the Israeli economy and our ability to produce heavy goods, like the ones that you'd need in military affairs, just isn't there. It may be there in the future, but to speak about it now as if that is something that is achievable before we sign the next MOU with the US, that is not realistic.
Yeah. So where have we heard that before? Oh yeah, on this show, where we said that, hey, these big pipe dreams about how Israel is going to be like independent and they're gonna make their own military industry, they're gonna make their own weapons. Yeah, that's gonna take years and years and years to develop. And he said not only do they not make weapon systems right now, they don't even make just like the raw goods, the more basic stuff where you could convert those factories into a weapons factory. They don't even make that stuff. So you have to be dependent on imports for even more basic goods than the high technology that you need to make weapons. So they're nowhere close to being able to be independent and autonomous when it comes to like military power. And that's also, by the way, the reason that I think Netanyahu went out and signed that deal with India, where India is going to start making drones for them. He's trying to diversify their supply chain for weapons, go outside of the United States. Okay, so let's shift gears now. Let's go to Starmer. We'll get away from Israel. We'll go to Starmer. Because Starmer, I mean, this is pretty big geopolitical news, right? That Starmer resigned. Let's see. I had it pulled up in one of these tabs, but I have too many tabs open, so I'm just searching for it again on X. Here it is.
The country I love.
All right, so this is just a 30-second clip from it.
Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision. I will ask the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party to set out a timetable with nominations opening on the 9th of July and completed by the summer recess. Every job in the country, I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife, Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad, and being the best dad I can to my beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy. Thank you very much.
So I suspect that this guy got forced out because I think he was doing too much to help Trump. Remember, he negotiated that trade deal with Trump last year. That was widely rebuked in Europe. They were very mad about that. And that also set up the circumstance for the EU to capitulate to Trump, because part of the deal that Trump negotiated with Britain, as I recall, basically prevented Britain from creating the goods that would then be imported to Europe. I think it also encouraged the isolation of Britain because Britain turned around and negotiated with the EU right after it negotiated that deal with Trump. This was in May of 2025, and as I recall, Britain capitulated with Trump, and then they turned around and the deal they negotiated with the European Union basically maintained Brexit to a large extent. Where Brexit, I think the idea that the Europeans had was that, hey, we can import stuff to Britain from the United States and then have a zero trade barrier between Britain and the European Union and just get these goods. We can bypass Trump's tariffs he wants to put on the EU by making sure that Britain gets favorable terms, and then we'll negotiate a zero tariff boundary with Britain. And Trump basically cut that off at the head by making sure that that couldn't happen. And so Britain negotiated a strong deal for the U.S. with the U.S. It negotiated tariffs with the EU, and then Trump turned around right after that and negotiated with the EU, and then they got tariffs too. And that's why the European elite were pulling their hair out, angry at what Trump had done. So Starmer gets forced out here, but I think a lot of that had to do with Trump bending this guy's arm, twisting this guy's arm, and forcing him to do stuff that the European elite did not want him to do. But I mean, yeah, the guy's sitting there crying during his resignation. Not exactly the leader that you want in this moment in time, considering the stuff that the EU and that Britain are going through right now with the takeover of their country from these immigrants that they've allowed in. Okay, so we're only going to go for a few more minutes because lots going on and need to prepare for leaving for Deadwood tomorrow. But we have, I pulling up the right tab. I think this is the right tab. Here we go. So in Colombia, we had elections, and this guy, Abelardo de la Espriella, am I saying that right? Because I don't think it's Espriella. I think it's Espriella if I have my Spanish correct. But the headline is Institutional Threat, Election of Far-Right Leader Raises Fears of for Democracy in Colombia. The Trump-admiring Abelardo de la Espriella has vowed to, quote-unquote, disembowel the left and kill criminals like rats and cockroaches. When more than 20 women accused a Colombian evangelical pastor in 2012 of sexually abusing them, the defendant's lawyers sought to discredit the allegations by telling the court that they were trepadoras, a pejorative term meaning social climber. A pejorative term meaning social climber. He ultimately secured his client's acquittal although the case remains under review by Supreme Court. But footage of the remark resurfaced during Colombia's presidential campaign, sparking outrage among many progressive voters. On Sunday, that lawyer was elected Colombia's next president. Abelardo de la Espriella, dude, we got to figure out. He calls himself El Tigre. I like El Tigre way better. I'm gonna start calling him El Tigre because his name is a little bit of a nightmare to pronounce every time. A millionaire who launched his legal career. Are there any world leaders, by the way, who aren't millionaires? Please point them out if that's the case, because I'm pretty sure like every world leader is in some capacity a millionaire, at least by their own standard, by their own country's currency. Who launched his legal career defending paramilitary leaders and has never held public office, defeated the left-wing Senator Ivan Cepeda by a razor-thin margin of just 250,000 votes out of an electorate of 41 million. On August 7th, he will replace Gustavo Petro, the country's first and only leftist president, marking a sharp swing back to the right for the country. And De La Espriella, El Tigre, is seen as considerably further to the right than Colombia's long line of conservative presidents, although El Tigre said in his victory speech that he would respect the Constitution and the rights of all Colombians. The election of the 47-year-old self-styled outsider who promised to disembowel the left, use lethal force against protesters, and kill criminals like rats and cockroaches has left many analysts and activists concerned about the risk he could pose to Colombian democracy. And it just goes on to quote a bunch of people saying how scared they are of this guy. An outspoken admirer of the U.S. President Donald Trump, who endorsed his campaign, El Tigre has drawn inspiration from him and other conservative leaders in the region, particularly El Salvador's populist autocrat Nayib Bukele. Colombia's next president has vowed to emulate Bukele's controversial crackdown on gangs in an effort to confront the decades-long armed conflict in which criminal groups fight each other and the military for control of territory and cocaine trafficking routes, fueling killings, forced displacement, massacres, and kidnappings. Inspired by Brazil's Bolsonaro family, he has turned Colombia's national football shirt into a symbol of the far right. From Argentina's Javier Milei, El Tigre borrowed the feline mascot, a lion in the Argentines case, and the promise to take a chainsaw to the state, shrinking it by 40%. Some analysts see cuts on that scale as particularly concerning, arguing that they could trigger an economic crisis, and given that the state already struggles to maintain a presence across large parts of the country, inadvertently strengthen criminal groups by creating a vacuum for them to fill. And then it goes on to say, a quote from Ana Bejarano Ricciarte, we've never confronted a threat of this magnitude. He has promised a regressive agenda in terms of civil rights and fundamental rights, an anti-abortion agenda, an anti-LGBTQ plus agenda. He has vowed to withdraw Colombia from the inter-American human rights system, which has been the guiding light for the protection of human rights here. He has embraced an almost tailor-made formula for right-wing populism in Latin America. I mean, on paper, all that sounds pretty good to me. But here's where gets really interesting. And again, we talked about this on Daily. So if for those of you who watch Daily, you'll hear a lot of the same, but I want to go a little deeper on this. It says, the son of a former liberal state congressman and lawyer who twice unsuccessfully sought election as governor, El Tigre followed in his father's legal footsteps, initially taking on small civil and labor cases. The turning point came in the early 2000s when paramilitaries, private armies created by right-wing landowners to fight left-wing guerrilla groups, began negotiating their demobilization with the government. El Tigre entered the talks as a member of civil society, but soon became the lawyer for some of the militia's leaders. As his profile grew, he took on other high-profile clients, including the pastor Alvaro Gomez, who was accused of abusing female followers, the head of a financial pyramid scheme allegedly used to launder drug trafficking money, and Alex Saab, accused by U.S. authorities of being the main financial frontman for Nicolas Maduro's regime in Venezuela. His campaign said it was his, quote, success in the courts that laid the foundations for his fortune and allowed him to expand into other ventures, including rum, wine, menswear, construction, and agribusiness. He has also published 5 books and recorded 2 albums on which is this guy's a recording artist, on which he croons popular classics. An investigation by the Colombian news outlet La Cia Vasia reported that apart from his law firm, most of his other businesses were operating at a loss. Okay. He spent years in Miami and obtained U.S. citizenship in 2023. He also holds Italian citizenship. On social media, he frequently showcases lavish lifestyle, including yacht trips and private jet travel between his various homes. So this guy's a tri-citizen, it sounds like. He's a citizen of Colombia, a citizen of the U.S., and a citizen of Italy. I thought tri-citizenship in America was legal. Let me see. Is tri-citizenship in the USA illegal? Because he got this under the Biden administration. It says, no, tri-citizenship is not illegal in the United States. The U.S. government does not impose a limit on the number of foreign nationalities a citizen may hold and does not require U.S. citizens to renounce other citizenships when naturalizing elsewhere. Oh, wow, that's great. So you can be a citizen of every country as far as we're concerned. Yeah, and it does appear that that's the case. So tri-citizenship, I think every other country, as far as I know, does consider tri-citizenship illegal. Ukraine certainly does. I know that for a fact that in Ukraine you can't be a citizen of 3 countries, and in most places I think that's the case. But what's really interesting here is the fact that this guy, as I said this morning, was Alex Saab's lawyer. Okay, he was Alex Saab's lawyer. Alex Saab being this guy, ally of Maduro. He was a minister in Maduro's government. He was the guy who came in 2018. I think in 2016 is when he negotiated with the DEA that he was going to become an informant. And he comes to America and under the Trump administration informs on both the Maduro government and the cartels operating in Colombia and Venezuela. And then when he gets arrested in 2019 in Cape Verde, the island nation off the coast of Africa, he's accused of evading arrest, evading an arrest warrant. And his lawyer later during the Biden administration says that he actually came to the United States during the Trump administration with the blessing of Nicolas Maduro, and he was informing on the Maduro government with the blessing of Nicolas Maduro. But of course and that seems to track because when he is then sent back to Venezuela by the Biden administration, when they did a prisoner exchange, Maduro makes him the Minister of Industry. So all that seems to track. Now what's happened now is that you have Gustavo Petro is accusing this of being of election fraud, which is very interesting. President Trump did endorse this guy, but you can't really take that to heart because I think President Trump endorses people all the time who serve his interest, right? If Trump knows this guy's going to steal the election and he knows he's going to become president, then why not endorse him and at least get the shine for endorsing someone who he knows is going to win anyway? I'm not saying that's what happened here, but I'm just saying it's a possibility. Here is Marco Rubio saying that, congratulating this guy and saying that the bright days ahead for Colombia. Let's see. Says Senator Marco, President Trump congratulates El Tigre. It was a great honor to support him. President Trump has issued once again a message of support for the election of the far right El Tigre. Congratulations to El Tigre, the new president of Colombia. It was a great honor to support him. I hope we work together to build a strong relationship between Colombia and the United States. It is not Trump's first nod to the ultra. I don't know what that means. It's a translation thing. Probably the radical is probably what they mean. Shortly after the election results were known, the U.S. president had already contacted El Tigre on Sunday night. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has confirmed that the call has occurred and that the Trump administration is very willing to work with the new government of Colombia. Quote, the Trump administration looks forward to working closely with his next administration to boost regional security cooperation into legal immigration into the U.S. and strengthen our economic ties. The future of Colombia is yet to come, Rubio wrote on social networks. and it says that this guy El Tigre remains silent on his first day after the elections and repeats a message from his speech on Sunday. The far right, El Tigre, president-elect according to the pre-count, has decided not to speak out, give interviews or statements this Monday. From their press team, he said that the criminal lawyer would take this first day after the elections for personal matters, and so it has been. The only thing he has published on his X account was a part from his speech from Sunday, which he gave from Barranquilla, the city where he received the results. Quote, Colombia was never defeated. Colombia was never defeated. Colombia was just waiting for the moment to get back up, and that moment has arrived. Today begins a new stage for our nation. El Tigre accompanied the message with a video that he projected on Sunday night from Barranquilla, a stage in which we once again believe in ourselves and our ability to move forward and in the strength of a people that never gave up, even in the most difficult of moments. This will be the homeland of everyone and for everyone. So the strange part about this is that this guy is obviously connected to Maduro. He's represented Alex Saab, who, as all these articles say, is the front man for Maduro, to the extent that the United States arrested him, accusing him of being the main money launderer for Maduro. And yet, here's an article from, I think this is from Monday, where these three Republican senators, are they senators? I think they're all senators. They're either senators or they're just congressmen. But that would be, I think they're just congressmen. But Maria Elvira Salazar, Carlos Jimenez, and Mario Diaz-Balart. These are Hispanic neocons. These are like the Hispanic neocons who all three of these people, I believe, I know Salazar and Diaz-Balart signed the letter that nominated Maria Corina Machado to the Nobel Committee back in August of 2024. They all oppose Maduro. Many of them have come out and opposed this new, Delcy Rodriguez government. They don't like the fact that we're playing nice with the Venezuela government now because they know that it's still the Maduro government. Yet they're supporting this guy. That's very strange. There's a weird conflict happening there because this guy is affiliated with Maduro. He's affiliated with this other guy. Why are they supporting him? That doesn't make any sense. It also doesn't make sense that Gustavo Petro is out there accusing this guy of stealing the election. Hold on one second. I was just getting a text. I was just making sure it wasn't one of y'all telling me that my stream had stopped or something. But Gustavo Petro coming out and accusing this guy of stealing the election. Here's what he says. Gustavo Petro rejects the results, claims that the electoral software was compromised and that changes to the registry's servers were point to manipulation. His technical flag is E14 forms. The official tally sheets polling officials are supposed to sign are going unsigned. He wants those tables challenged on the spot. The big one is that Petro says Israel was behind the alleged breach, and he's calling for a full recount and a forensic audit of the system while urging calm and national dialogue. The catch is he's shown no evidence, and it all lands right after his side lost. But again, the accusation here is interesting because the people that are supporting this guy, who is, again, a Maduro affiliate, I mean, he's the lawyer for Alex Saab going back to 2014. That was when he started representing Alex Saab. The people who are backing him in the Republican Party are all Israel shills. They're all Zionists. So this would track that Israel was behind this. So let's go to this guy's, let's go to Gustavo Petro's X account. Let's see. He says, he got a lot of tweets about this. I'm just going to try to find the one that's most relevant. So, okay. So he's like posting the evidence online. This is interesting. So he's talked about being in Panama. Yeah, there's a lot. Okay. So Man, I'm gonna need to send this. I'm gonna send all these. I'm gonna send all of these posts to Ash and Canton. Canton, if you're listening, take a look at this stuff. Go to Gustavo Petro's X account and look at all the stuff he's posting, because he's posting receipts. It looks like he's posting the receipts of this election integrity stuff, and what it looks like is that he's accusing. Right here, the E14, it says digital witnesses report the registry is uploading E14 forms without signatures from polling officials. These tables must be immediately challenged. It is strictly required that the E14 forms be signed by the polling officials. The vote is nearly tied, with no one reaching 50%, which forces waiting for the final counts. In the latest pre-count bulletin, it's 49% versus 48%. And so he's showing video. So he's showing videos of these E14 forms that aren't signed. So I don't really know what that means, but he's posting the evidence on here. So here he says polling stations without signatures from the board members must be challenged immediately. It is not possible to know who the president is, and there are many irregularities. So let me see if I want to search it. Wait, no, I want to search his account for Israel, because I want to see the specific accusations he's making about Israel. Okay, so he's saying, this is the post. I warned that the software of the Batista brothers was vulnerable according to the 2018 Council of State ruling that it should be replaced with public software. I timely requested an expert audit of the Batista brothers software, and the registrar did not allow it. Well, today we have evidence of a change in the IP addresses of several servers of the National Registry. That this means that the software was compromised and others wrote data for polling stations and voting posts. The only entity in the world capable of doing that is the state of Israel. I will pass to the judges with precision the changed servers so that they conduct the expert audit of the electoral software that has not been carried out and do it in the very process of scrutiny. I request a scrutiny of all polling stations and a new count of all votes with a study of vulnerabilities in the electoral software and the stations that suffered impact. To the entire population, I request calm and restraint to achieve a thoroughly and well done scrutiny that reflects the true decision of the citizenry. I maintain that it is time before letting hatred win, to seek a national dialogue among the fundamental political currents that divide Colombian society in half, whatever the real outcome of the scrutiny may be. So he's being very reasonable. He's saying, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's do an audit. Let's put scrutiny under this. Nobody has reached 50%. And I've seen that in a lot of these countries, you have to reach 50%. If you don't reach 50% of the vote, then you go to a runoff election. I don't know if that's the case in Colombia, but that's the case in a lot of these countries. I believe they've had runoff elections in Venezuela. If I'm not mistaken, they did. Point is, though, is that the guy who was in there before Petro, who was a right winger, he was super pro Israel. Urabi, I think was his name. And then I think Urabi was posting in agreement with this, but it's hard to wrap your head around what's going on here, because while this guy does have like public spats with Trump, that to me does not indicate that he is against Trump. It just means that he's against some of the rhetoric and the narrative that Trump puts out, and Trump puts out all kinds of rhetoric and narrative. But what he has done is that he has hunted down cartels. He has gone after the ELN. Here's a post right here from 15 hours ago where he says the real destruction of Ivan Mordizka's fronts has begun. The ELN lost a historic opportunity, and so did the Calarca dissidents. The Gulf Clan, which is the largest cocaine cartel in Colombia, will let missiles fall on the small scale miners and become their gold businessmen bosses with the same old politicians. They have to kill a lot in the Caribbean to regain power. Only the biggest traditional political boss with all of his financial power intact, Alex Saab, was more defeated than in my presidential campaign. They'll give him a ministry to see if he recovers, like with Abedinin and the Min TIC of the children's internet theft. I don't know what that means. The small-scale miners with the missiles, when the missiles fall on them, will do what Colombia's peasantry has always done. The South is left exposed in the middle of the full peace process, and with 100 disarmed combatants, we must speed up demobilization. But if the Americans realize that the short-term business won't work because it could spark a continental-scale people's explosion, the South of Colombia will pave the way for peace and the end for the coca leaf in Colombia. We just have to look at the data and look a little further ahead. And so I think what he's probably referring to is the fact that he's come out and said, we've covered it on this show before, that he doesn't support the burning of cocaine crops or the poisoning of cocaine crops. And here's why. Because he says that the cocaine crop, the coca leaf, is more resilient than any other plant around it. So what happens is that you burn a whole forest down to destroy the cocaine. The cocaine comes back. Nothing else does. You drop herbicide on the cocaine plant, the farms, which are normally buried in the jungles, to hide from planes and stuff and spotters. And then you kill everything. The jungle dies, but the cocaine plant resumes. He says the only way to take out a cocaine farm is to, number one, go in and tear up the root of the cocaine plant by hand. He says it's very hard work, but it's the only way to actually get rid of the cocaine farm. And the best way to do it, the most effective way to do that, is to incentivize the farmer to do it for you, so that you don't have to pay people to do it, the government to do it. And you incentivize them to do it by offering alternatives. Like I think the alternatives he offers are coconuts, pineapple, coffee beans, and chocolate. Those are the 4 crops that I think he's offering, primarily coffee and chocolate. And he's actually gone around the Middle East. He's negotiated with like the UAE and Saudi Arabia for them to use all coffee from Colombia and chocolate from Colombia. So he's created a lot of demand for Colombian chocolate and Colombian coffee. And then that's where the incentive for the cocaine farmers to stop making cocaine for the cartels and start growing coffee. So this guy's done a lot, I think, to combat a lot of the things that they're claiming El Tigre is going to combat. We'll see what El Tigre does, and what happens if he actually does take office. But assuming he does take office, I think we could see a resurgence in the Colombian cartels. The Colombian cocaine cartels could come back in force. We might see some of these operations. Like here's one operation, Operation Trident. This is a joint operation between the Colombian Navy and the U.S. Navy to target smuggling routes in the Eastern Pacific, coordinated by the U.S. Southern Command, Southcom Joint Interagency Task Force, which brings together a 21-nation partnership along with multiple U.S. agencies, basically going after boats in the Pacific that are trafficking drugs from Ecuador, primarily. That's what Gustavo Petro says, but also from Colombia, up to Mexico, up to the Central America, up to California, whatever it is. But they're using the Pacific to traffic, because now they can't do it across Venezuela anymore, because Venezuela is now working with the U.S. to shut that all down. I think they were working with the U.S. before Maduro was gone. But here's one paragraph. It says this forward deployed model proved effective through successive interdictions. In one instance, a Colombian Navy team launched from the SSM intercepted a vessel seizing 3,000 kilograms of marijuana and apprehending 3 traffickers. Shortly thereafter, the same team pursued a second vessel whose crew attempted to discard its cargo during the chase. Colombian forces recovered 900 kilograms of cocaine and apprehended 3 additional individuals, including an Ecuadorian national, underscoring the transnational nature of these networks. So this is just more of the same from what we've seen from Gustavo Petro working with the U.S. government, starting in the Biden administration. I could show you, this is from May of 2026. Here is, let's see. I think I have one from 2023. Yeah, so here's from January 2026. Colombia to continue working with the U.S. on drug trafficking, the government says. I believe we have, there's one I have from 2023. Yeah, this one. So here's from 2023. Unitas. So a U.S. Navy and Marine forces are set to arrive in Cartagena to support the world's longest running multinational maritime exercise in the world. And so like the Navy SEALs were there. They were working with Colombian special forces. A lot of it was about training them to, go after these cartels and these militia. So anyway, interesting stuff. We'll see what happens with Gustavo Petro and that. Keep an eye on this election stuff, because this could be maybe a predicate to learning more about Venezuela's election system, the U.S. election system. Remember, Maduro's court case is coming, and a lot of people think that that's going to be a disclosure operation for, U.S. election integrity. Everybody hit the thumbs up. Share the show. We won't have a show on Friday because I'll be in Deadwood. Bread Hour, $5. What is happening with Iraq and all of this? I haven't heard about those guys in a decade. We've covered Iraq a little bit on this show, but basically Iraq has a new prime minister. He seems to be favorable to Trump. He seems to be favorable to MBS. They're restarting a lot of their oil and natural gas operations, working with MBS, working with Saudi Arabia and Lebanon and Syria to get gas and natural gas piped, oil and natural gas rather, piped over to the Mediterranean and down to the Red Sea. So it's a good question, but Iraq has been somewhat quiet. I mean, it's one of those places that I think is hard to kind of figure out. They have traditionally been, I think, controlled by the deep state, but yeah, they've been relatively quiet. Okay, I think that gets us through all the boosts. Yeah, we're caught up on all the boosts. All right, guys, hit the thumbs up, and we will see you next Tuesday because we're not going to be here on Friday. Get your GART tickets if you haven't gotten GART tickets yet. See you in the virtual chat, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.